News First Weekend with Sonali Wanikapathuke.
Well, it's the 2nd of July 2011. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Weekend. The Ministry of Petroleum Resources says it has not forwarded a cabinet paper regarding the purchase of 20,000 metric tons of petrol, which is the subject of controversy. On tonight's news, we dig deeper into the controversy surrounding 90-octane petrol. That's coming up later on, but first a look at your headlines for tonight. President says that there are allegations that the public day at state institutions is not being properly followed. Ministry of Petroleum Industries says the ministry has not forwarded a cabinet paper with regard to the purchase of 20,000 metric tons of petrol. The JVP questions who should be held responsible for the petrol issue. And in news overseas, allies of Dominic Strauss-Kahn eye political comeback. President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that there are allegations that the public day at state institutions is not being properly followed. The president made this observation while addressing a meeting at Temple Trees yesterday. Every Wednesday has been named at the public day at state institutions.
The progress review meeting of the Ministry of State Management Reforms was held yesterday under the auspices of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Addressing the gathering, the President has said that all new recruits to public service should be given a streamlined training. The President had further noted that special attention should be directed on information technology, proficiency on languages and attitudinal development. President Mahinda Rajapaksa had also stated that the training courses should be based on modern mechanisms instead of archaic methods. According to a release issued by the President's media unit, President has agreed to allocate funds for training programs as per a request made by Minister of State Management Reforms Navin Dissanayake. At the meeting, Secretary to the President Lalit Veeratunga has highlighted issues that have arisen due to attitudinal weakness within the state sector.
On tonight's developing story, the Ministry of Petroleum Resources says that the ministry has not forwarded a cabinet paper with regard to the purchase of 20,000 metric tons of petrol, which is the subject of controversy. According to a release issued by the Ministry of Petroleum, decisions pertaining to the purchase of fuel are decided by a cabinet-appointed tender board. The release further notes that the stock of petrol in question was also purchased on a decision made by the committee. The release adds that the cabinet papers forwarded by the Ministry of Petroleum in the months of March and April are for the purchase of diesel and not petrol.
Over the past few days, reports emerged from various parts of Colombo that vehicles had stopped in the middle of the road. Now we at News First came out today into the streets to inquire how the situation was today.
According to what we saw, many motorists have opted to pump super petrol, also known as octane 95 fuel, for their vehicles. I always use super petrol, so I have not yet come across a problem.
We are careful of our vehicles. Therefore, we have decided to use octane 95 fuel.
From yesterday, we started using the normal petrol. So far, there is no problem. Motorists attribute the stalling of vehicles to the pumping of 90-octane fuel. I always use 90-octane fuel. There was a problem in my car, so I had to come to the garage. They asked me to bring 20 litres of octane 95 petrol in order to get the car back on track. This is a manner in which a large number of vehicles were brought to garages across the island for repairs. This is the fourth vehicle we are removing for the day. This pump normally costs around 30 to 40,000 rupees. The full system goes bad. There was no water in the pumps we removed. Injectors have been blocked in most of them. After you clean it and pump 95 octane petrol, the problem gets rectified. However, the cost you have to incur is very high. Meanwhile, similar situations were witnessed in several areas outside Colombo. Our correspondents witnessed the manner in which how a number of vehicles which had stalled were brought to a garage in Gampaha. It is like a gel. It is not clear as to what it is. There is water in the petrol. We repaired around 10 vehicles so far. Vehicles that pumped 90-octane petrol had to undergo this problem. There is a different odor in the petrol. Many vehicles in Dambulla was also subjected to repairs. After pumping petrol, the vehicle encountered problems. I came here to see what had happened. The petrol was similar to mud water. We brought around 4 liters of fuel. There is water in the petrol.
Meanwhile, the JVP charges that no one has come forward to take the responsibility for the issue at hand. This observation was made by JVP Politburo member parliamentarian Anurag Maravisanayaka at a conference held in Ratnapura yesterday.
We can see motorcycles, three-wheelers or cars halted in the middle of the road these days. Why? Because low quality petrol has been imported. When I was arriving here, I saw petrol sheds with the boards saying either closed or no petrol. And there was another which stated purchase at your own risk. The owner of the petrol shed does not want to be assaulted after selling petrol. That is why he had hung this board. They had imported low quality petrol. Pumps of petrol sheds have broken down. A large number of three-wheelers, motorcycles and cars have also been affected. Who should be held responsible for this?
Motorcycle, car වල විශාල ප්‍රමාණයකට ආබාධයට ලක් කරලා තිබෙනවා. ඉතින් කොහොම මේවට වග කියන අය?
Minister of Justice Rauf Hakim says that according to the internal law of Saudi Arabia, the death sentence imposed on Rizana Nafiq can only be removed only if the parents of the deceased child decide to do so, and not even the King of Saudi Arabia. The minister expressed this view at a media briefing held to coincide with the 50th annual session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization.
Minister of Justice Rauf Hakim chaired the 50th annual session of the Asian African Legal Consultative Organization, which was held with the participation of 47 countries. At the media briefing, the Justice Minister responded to a question raised by a journalist regarding the steps taken by the government to secure the release of Rizana Nafiq, who is facing the death sentence in Saudi Arabia.
The system which pertains there deals with the Sharia law, where if somebody is convicted for murder and if they are in the death row, pardon will not emanate from the king or the state. That has to first be initiated by the family. The previous attempt also failed because of the attitude of the tribe to which the parents belong. It's a matter of their pride not to accept blood money for any murder that happens to one of their members. So in that regard, even the Saudi authorities are in a dilemma because because since they know the attitude of the tribe. So therefore we have of course made another request through once again the Foreign Ministry to try and see whether some arrangement could be made for us to meet with tribal leaders.
Acting leader of the United National Party, Karu Jayasuriya, says that a peaceful and prosperous country can be built by developing goodwill among all communities. Karu Jayasuriya made this observation while delivering the keynote address at the 51st installation of the Rotary Club of Colombo West held in Colombo yesterday.
Many distinguished Rotarians were present at the 51st installation of the Rotary Club of Colombo West. At the occasion, Rotarian Dulat Kundanmal was named as the president of the club for the year 2011-2012.
Unfortunately, at the moment, that distrust between the north and the south still exists. And I believe, and we must see an end to this. Because anybody living in this country must have equal rights. People in the north should also get an opportunity of selecting their own political leaders. We have seen this in every other part of Sri Lanka, and including the East. Now even the East is being ruled by people who carried arms in the past. So what is important now is to establish the development of goodwill and the trust between all communities. And that will be the beginning of building a new, peaceful, prosperous Sri Lanka.
course, our international desk will take the very latest on that story. But up next, here's a look at Action TV.
The Namalvatta in Morava, Trincomalee, which is located in the Trincomalee district, is one of the villages where resettlement took place. The Namalvatta area, which was populated during the first half of the 1980s, saw the area residents engage in farming activities without any hindrance till they were forced to flee due to the war. The residents were able to continue farming up until the time they had to flee, as they had no issue in procuring the water needed for their cultivations. The waterways, which fell into a state of dilapidation during the time of war, should have been renovated in line with the resettlement process which took place following the conclusion of the war. Instead, the officials took steps to divert water from the Morava reservoir to the farmlands in the Namalvatta area, incurring a cost of 236 million rupees. This initiative was carried out under the program, namely Peace Project, with aid received from the Japanese government. Thanks to the plans of the engineers who were assigned to the Peace Project, the residents of the Namalvatta area received a canal with a peculiar shape as their dividends of peace. The canal, which should have been constructed in a V shape, has been constructed to resemble a square. Hence, farmers have been greatly inconvenienced. We cannot live here. We are preparing to leave. Around 15 families have left already. These visuals bear testament to the issue faced by farmers in the area. However, even in this backdrop, the group of engineers who were assigned to the Peace Project deny that these farmers have had to face this plight due to the waterway which was constructed according to their plans. Although the canal is square-shaped, that does not affect the volume of water it could hold. They say that a few families have been inconvenienced. The main reason for this is there is no proper water management. The assistant engineer in charge of the Peace Project says that the farmers are inconvenienced due to the mismanagement of water in a backdrop where water is flowing from the sides of the canal, which was built according to their plans and under their supervision. Anyone who travels to Namalvatta could see that the situation there is completely contradictory to the statements which have been made by the assistant engineer from his office located in Trincomalee. As a result of the wastage of water, 500 acres of farmland in the area have been left without water. Shouldn't necessary steps be taken to rectify this matter and ensure a constant water supply at least during the next season? Minister of Economic Development, this is over to you.